The Silence Protocol. The conference hall on Station Meridian gleamed under artificial starlight. Delegates from 47 species filled the amphitheater, their translators humming softly as they debated trade routes and territorial disputes. At the center podium stood Ambassador Elena Volkov, humanity's voice in the Galactic Council for the past 6 years. She adjusted her tablet and smiled at the assembled crowd. Honorable members, Earth proposes a joint scientific initiative. We've developed agricultural technology that could feed worlds suffering from soil degradation. We're offering this freely, no strings attached. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Kryn delegation, insectoid beings with crystalline exoskeletons, clicked their mandibles in what seemed like approval. The amphibious Selthari nodded their massive heads. But at the highest tier, where the Council's 5 ruling species sat, there was only cold silence. Councillor Thexan of the Vorith leaned forward, his reptilian eyes narrowing. Humans always offer gifts. But gifts come with prices. Elena kept her composure. No price, Councillor. Only cooperation. Cooperation. Thexan's forked tongue flickered. The same cooperation that led your species to arm 12 independent colonies without council approval. The chamber went quiet. Elena felt her pulse quicken but maintained her diplomatic mask. Those colonies faced pirate raids. We provided defensive systems, all within established human interpretation of law, interrupted Councillor Breshka, a 6-limbed hexarch whose fur bristled with agitation. You expand. You fortify. You ignore our warnings. Elena's hands gripped the podium. She'd known this was coming. For months, the Council had grown hostile toward human expansion. Humanity had gone from primitive spaceflight to galactic presence in just 2 centuries, faster than any species in recorded history. It made the old powers nervous. We follow every regulation, Elena said firmly. Our growth is lawful. Lawful. Thexan rose from his seat, towering over the chamber. Tell me, Ambassador, do you know what happens when a species grows too quickly? When they refuse to accept their place. Before Elena could respond, the lights cut out. Emergency strips flickered on, bathing everything in red. Elena's security detail, 2 human marines, moved to her side instantly. But something was wrong. The chamber doors had sealed. The translator feeds went dead. Through the crimson dimness, Elena saw Thexan descending the steps toward her, flanked by council enforcers in obsidian armor. This session is concluded, Thexan announced. His voice carried without translation, speaking in perfect English. Ambassador Volkov, you are hereby detained for crimes against council sovereignty. Elena's marines raised their weapons. Stand down, she told them quietly. Don't give them an excuse. Wise, Thexan said, stopping 3 meters away. Your species has been tolerated long enough. You breed like plague vectors. You terraform worlds at reckless speed. You refuse to be controlled. We refuse to be slaves, Elena corrected. There's a difference. Thexan's eyes flashed. Defiance. Always defiance. Even now. One of the council enforcers moved forward with restraints. Elena's marines tensed but didn't fire. The cold metal clamped around her wrists, and she felt the neural suppressors activate, sending numbing pulses through her nervous system. This is illegal, Elena said, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her throat. Ambassadors have diplomatic immunity. Every species will. Every species will do nothing, Breshka interjected, joining Thexan. We control the relays. We control the trade. They will accept our judgment, or they will starve. Elena looked past them to the other delegates. Most avoided her gaze. A few Kryn clicked nervously. The Selthari had already begun filing out. No one would help. No one would risk the council's wrath. Take her to the holding cells, Thexan ordered. Let Earth wonder what happened to their precious ambassador. Let them learn what happens when insects try to sit at the table of gods. As the enforcers dragged her toward the rear exit, Elena caught sight of her lead Marine, Sergeant Torres. His jaw was clenched, his trigger finger twitching. She shook her head once. Not here. Not now. But in that moment, as the doors closed behind her and the chamber's lights returned to normal, Elena Volkov activated the one thing the Council didn't know about. Every human ambassador carried a subdermal emergency beacon, a final resort that broadcast a single, encrypted message back to Earth. The message was only 3 words long. Silence protocol, active. No one in the chamber heard the transmission. No one saw the quantum-encrypted pulse shoot through the station's communication array, bypassing every filter, every scanner, every defensive measure the Council had put in place. By the time Elena disappeared into the holding cells, Earth had already received her final message. And in the war rooms beneath Geneva, in the military command centers on Mars, in the fleet anchorages orbiting Jupiter, a protocol that humanity had hoped never to use began its cold, mechanical activation. The Council had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. The Reckoning. Admiral Marcus Chen stood in the operations center beneath Geneva, watching the holographic display flicker with tactical data. Around him, 30 officers worked in disciplined silence, their faces illuminated by screens showing fleet positions across human space. The Silence Protocol beacon had arrived 4 hours ago. Chen had served in the Solar Navy for 38 years. He'd fought pirates, negotiated with hostile species, and once talked down a Kryn warship from firing on a colony transport. But he'd never imagined he'd see this protocol activated. Confirmation from all sectors, reported Commander Sarah Park, his chief strategist. 7th Fleet is holding position at Wolf 359. 3rd and 5th Fleets have completed silent running protocols. Every human ship within Council space has gone dark. Chen nodded. The first phase was complete. Every human vessel had shut down their transponders, erased their registry data, and activated stealth systems. To the Council sensors, humanity had simply vanished. What about civilian stations? Chen asked. Evacuation protocols initiated. Diplomatic families, research teams, traders, everyone's pulling back to human-controlled space. We'll have them all home within 18 hours. The Council will notice. They already have. Park pulled up intercepted communications. Their border stations are reporting our withdrawal. They think we're retreating in fear. Chen's jaw tightened. Let them think that. Status on Ambassador Volkov. Park's expression darkened. No communication since the beacon. Intelligence suggests she's being held in Station Meridian's maximum security wing. The Council hasn't made any public statements. Because they're testing us, Chen said quietly. They took our ambassador to see if we'd beg. If we'd negotiate from weakness. And if we don't. Chen turned to face the main display, where Earth rotated slowly in blue and green majesty. Then we show them why you don't corner a predator. A young lieutenant approached, her hands trembling slightly as she held out a data pad. Admiral, the Security Council has voted. Authorization code verified. The order is, it's confirmed, sir. Chen took the pad. The message was brief, signed by representatives from every human nation and colony. Execute Operation Fallen Star. No mercy. No surrender. Bring her home. He felt the weight of those words settle on his shoulders. This wasn't just about Elena Volkov anymore. This was about every human who'd ever been dismissed, threatened, or treated as lesser by the so-called civilized galaxy. Transmit to all fleet commanders, Chen ordered. Execute Fallen Star. Phase 2 begins now. Park hesitated. Sir, once we cross this line. The line was crossed when they took our ambassador, Chen interrupted. We didn't start this. But by God, we'll finish it. Station Meridian hung in the void like a jeweled crown, home to the Galactic Council and symbol of their authority over 100 worlds. Its shields could withstand supernova radiation. Its weapons could crack a moon. Its defense fleet numbered 200 warships. The Council believed it was untouchable. They were wrong. The attack began at 0400 station time. No warnings. No declarations. No mercy. Humanity's 7th Fleet dropped out of quantum space at the system's edge, 47 warships appearing simultaneously across a three-dimensional grid. Before the Council's sensors could fully register the intrusion, rail guns opened fire. Kinetic slugs, accelerated to 40% light speed, crossed the distance in seconds. The Council's outer patrol ships exploded in brilliant flashes, their shields overwhelmed before they could even charge weapons. Defense fleet scrambling, reported the sensor officer aboard the human flagship Indomitable. They're moving to intercept. Captain Zhang Wei, commander of the 7th Fleet, watched the tactical display with cold precision. Deploy the swarm. Thousands of drone fighters launched from the human carriers, each one guided by quantum-linked AI. They moved in patterns no living pilot could match, weaving through enemy formations and targeting reactor cores with surgical precision. The Council's Vorith dreadnoughts returned fire, plasma beams cutting through space. 2 human destroyers took critical hits, their hulls rupturing. But for every human ship damaged, 10 Council vessels died. They're trying to close the distance, Zhang's tactical officer warned. Hexarch cruisers moving to engage at close range. Let them. Zhang's voice was ice. All ships, activate HFY Protocol. The human fleet's hulls opened, revealing weapons the Council had never seen before. Humanity had learned from every species they'd encountered, stolen every advantage, and built something new. Something terrifying. Directed energy beams, calibrated to overload organic nervous systems, swept across the enemy formation. Hexarch ships went dark as their crews convulsed. Plasma mines, invisible until detonation, turned space into a killing field. And the rail guns never stopped firing. Within 20 minutes, the Council's defense fleet was debris. Station Meridian's shields flared to maximum power as the human fleet closed in. On the command deck, Counselor Thexan watched in disbelief as his sensors showed the impossible. They're not stopping, stammered a Vorith officer. They're going to breach the station. Thexan's claws dug into his command chair. Impossible. No species would dare attack Council headquarters. No species would. The station shook as human breaching pods slammed into the hull. Cutting lasers began carving through reinforced metal. And through the station's internal sensors, Thexan watched as armored human soldiers poured into his corridors. They weren't there to negotiate. They were there for blood. The price of arrogance. The corridors of Station Meridian ran red with emergency lighting as human marines moved through the breach points like ghosts. Sergeant Torres led his squad through the station's eastern wing, their powered armor absorbing hits from Council security forces who scrambled to mount a defense. Holding cells are 3 levels down, Torres reported over comms. Encountering heavy resistance at checkpoint 7. Push through, came Admiral Chen's voice from orbit. We didn't come this far to stop now. Torres nodded to his team. They stacked up at the checkpoint door, shaped charges ready. The explosion sent metal fragments flying, and the Marines poured through before the smoke cleared. Vorith guards opened fire with plasma rifles, but human shields held. Return fire was precise and lethal. Within seconds, the checkpoint was secure. Keep moving, Torres ordered. Ambassadors waiting. 3 levels below, in a cell designed to break the will of prisoners, Elena Volkov sat in darkness. The neural suppressors had been turned to maximum, sending constant pain through her body. They'd offered her water once. She'd refused it. They'd offered mercy if she'd sign a confession admitting humanity's crimes. She'd laughed in their faces. The Vorith guard outside her cell suddenly stiffened, touching his communication device. Elena heard muffled explosions in the distance, growing closer. The guard's reptilian features twisted in fear, and he fumbled with his weapon. Then the door exploded inward. Torres entered first, his armor scorched but intact. His eyes found Elena slumped against the wall, and rage filled his voice. "Get those suppressors off her. Now." A combat medic rushed forward with tools, carefully removing the neural clamps. Elena gasped as feeling returned to her limbs, pain and relief flooding through her simultaneously. "Sorry we're late, Ambassador," Torres said, kneeling beside her. "Had to fight through some traffic." Elena managed a weak smile. "Better late than never, Sergeant. Can you walk? Watch me." Torres helped her stand, supporting her weight as they moved back toward the breach point. Behind them, the sounds of battle echoed through the station. The Council's forces were collapsing, unable to comprehend the ferocity of humanity's assault. On the command deck, Counselor Thexan watched his station fall apart. Half his security forces were dead. The humans had breached 4 sections. And his defense fleet was nothing but wreckage floating in the void. Counselor Breshka appeared beside him, her fur matted with blood from a shrapnel wound. "We must surrender. Send a transmission. Tell them we'll negotiate." "Negotiate?" Thexan's voice was hollow. "We took their ambassador. We declared them beneath us. There is no negotiation." As if to confirm his words, the main view screen flickered to life. Admiral Chen's face appeared, his expression carved from stone. "Counselor Thexan," Chen said. "I'm giving you one chance. Surrender Station Meridian immediately, or I will crack it open like an egg and let your people breathe vacuum." Thexan's pride warred with his survival instinct. "You wouldn't dare. The other species would never. The other species are already abandoning you." Chen gestured off-screen. "Check your diplomatic channels. The Kryn have withdrawn their support. The Selthri have recalled their delegates. Even your own Hexarch allies are distancing themselves. You're alone." Thexan's claws trembled. "If we surrender, what guarantee do we have that you won't slaughter us anyway?" "None," Chen said flatly. "But I'll tell you what you're guaranteed if you don't surrender. You'll watch your station die around you. You'll watch your people suffocate. And when it's over, I'll move on to your homeworld and repeat the process." The silence stretched for 5 eternal seconds. "Station Meridian surrenders," Thexan whispered. 20 minutes later, Elena Volkov stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, a heated blanket wrapped around her shoulders and a cup of coffee in her hands. Through the viewports, she watched as Council personnel evacuated Station Meridian in escape pods, their once mighty headquarters now under human occupation. Admiral Chen approached, his expression softening slightly. "Good to have you back, Ambassador." "Good to be back." Elena took a sip of coffee, savoring the warmth. "What's the casualty count?" "On our side? 47 dead, 112 wounded. On theirs?" Chen glanced at the tactical display. "Significant." Elena closed her eyes briefly, honoring the fallen. "And what happens now?" "Now?" Chen turned to face her fully. "Now we dictate terms. The Council's authority is broken. Every species that watched this battle knows that humanity isn't prey anymore. We're not the newcomers begging for scraps at their table. They'll fear us," Elena said quietly. "Yes. But they'll also respect us. And they'll never touch one of our people again." Through the viewports, a formation of human warships took position around Station Meridian, their weapons still hot from battle. The message was clear to anyone watching: this was humanity's galaxy now, whether the old powers liked it or not. Elena thought about the delegates who'd looked away when she was arrested. The species who'd stayed silent when the Council declared humans beneath them. The arrogance that had led Thexan to believe he could take an ambassador without consequences. They'd learned their lesson. In the harshest way possible. Sergeant Torres mentioned you activated the silence protocol without hesitation, Chen said. You knew what it would mean. Total war. Elena nodded slowly. I knew. But I also knew something else. I knew that humanity doesn't abandon its own. That we don't bow to tyrants. And that when pushed into a corner, we don't surrender, we come out fighting. She set down her coffee and straightened, her diplomatic composure returning despite her injuries. The council wanted to teach us our place. Instead, they learned theirs. Admiral Chen smiled grimly. The galaxy won't forget this day. No, Elena agreed, watching as the last council escape pods fled into the darkness. They won't. In the weeks that followed, the Galactic Council was dissolved. New treaties were written. New rules established. And at the center of it all sat humanity, no longer the newcomers, no longer the outsiders. They'd paid for their seat at the table in blood and fire. And no one would ever question their right to it again. The Council had killed a human envoy. Earth had responded with total extermination protocol. And the galaxy would remember.